start the ball rolling. I'm with Denise Carroll in a nice little garden, sunny day. A few months ago, Denise was awarded the MBE. What was that for, Denise?
That was my work with Millie's Child Contact Centre.
How many years have you been doing that?
11 and a half years now.
The plight, if that's the right word, of some children in Jersey obviously has been attracting a lot of attention over the past few years. Is the situation improving or not?
Well, we deal with children whose families going through divorce and separation, and absolutely no improvement at all. The figures are just climbing constantly. And I think a lot of that's to do with the economic climate, putting pressure on families. Unfortunately, an awful lot of our children are extremely young as well. Babies, weeks old. So yes, we're sort of seeing an awful lot of children having children.
The award that you've got in your hand, if you could just lift it up so that people could see it there. Now, obviously, that's in recognition of your work, but presumably authorities don't just recognise things and hope you'll go away. They obviously realise you're the sort of person who's going to carry on campaigning. Is that the intention?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. I think this just gives you a bit more recognition now to be able to continue that fight for the well-being of the children. And whereas some people might not have taken you seriously, it sort of recognises the fact that what you're doing isn't something that's here today, gone tomorrow. It's here long term. It is a serious issue, and yeah, we would definitely keep on.
This year's an election year. Have you got any aspirations? You have stood before.
Yes, and hopefully I'll be standing again, and who knows, when I get in there, there's some issues that I'd like to look into for the children and hopefully try and make some improvements. I
interviewed Judy Martin at the beginning of her office as Assistant Minister, and she was full of enthusiasm for the Convention on the Rights of the Child. It was going to be implemented, it's going to be signed up, everything's going to happen. I haven't noticed a great deal happening. What from your perspective, how is it?
I think there's a lot of paper shuffling going on, people ticking boxes and trying to bring in certain recommendations, but as usual and as typical in Jersey, everything goes at a slow pace, and of course we're up against all the cutbacks, so how far is it really going to be implemented?
You're working for basically a non-profit group. The States is very keen to offload work onto external charitable groups, private organisations. Are they trying to push work your way that should be done by the States? Is that an aspect of what's going on?
I think the work that we do in providing facilities for the children to maintain contact with the parents, is something that the government should be subsidising or giving a grant, but it should really be under their banner. It shouldn't really be a private organisation having to do that. In other places, is that what happens? Governments take up the... No, not at all. We're affiliated to the National Association of Child Contact Centres in the UK, which has got about 350 centres, and yeah, they're as busy as ever, really.
Right.
In the UK, expanding the services to offer parenting courses, counselling, and all sorts of types of therapy. Of course, one thing leads to another. Children leads to health issues, education issues. I mean, if you're standing for deputy, presumably, in the coming election, yes, you'll have to take on board all these issues and many more. Is there any other particular things which you think ought to be looked at? I think there's lots of, isn't there, at the moment? There's the economic situation, there's the immigration. We're only an island, 9 by 5. How many people can we fit into a small space? And you've then got to look at the services. Can we afford to provide them? The ever-aging population, and I think at the moment, taxing everything that you possibly can. It's what do we do for the young and the old? Well, of course, the official line is growth, isn't it? That's the growth and cutbacks. I don't know quite how the two work together, but you can grow the economy by having increased population. That's the official line. Yeah, and every person who comes into the island is going to get old, so our ageing population is just going to continue to expand. Our youngsters at the moment are struggling to find jobs, they can't afford housing, so they're leaving the island. If they're leaving the island, they're not paying social security, so where's the money going to come from, to be able to provide the elderly with the care they need?
And of course, caring notoriously attracts people, or the employers want to pay them the least, and obviously the people who are being cared for want the best possible service. They don't really work together, do they?
No, it doesn't. This is where the whole thing needs to be looked at. I think from afresh, really, start with a blank piece of paper again and look at it, because what our government currently is saying just doesn't work. It's just not adding up.
There aren't many females in the States. Of the ones that are there any that you could say you admire, that you would want to follow in their footsteps?
There's most probably, a couple that I've got great respect for, that work very hard and long hours, and under the pressure at the moment, I hope they, don't give up on it. But I wouldn't want to name anybody personally. No.
How about the poor miserable men then? Is there a man in there that you could say there's a good guy that's you would like to?
Again, I wouldn't want to be putting any names, but no, I think there are people in there that are working very, very hard to get an across-the-board balance with certain things. But of course we've got certain ministers that have got their agenda already set, so it seems, and seem determined and hell-bent on sticking to that. Ministerial
government appertaining to scrutiny is not working very well. Do you see any future for scrutiny?
I actually feel it was a great shame that Scrutiny, with the resignations and that recently, I think that was a great pity, because whilst they're there, they can fight against it, but now they've stepped down, there's nobody really to continue that fight. But again, Clothier said you couldn't cherry pick at it. We did cherry pick at it, and I think we've got the results now coming out loud and clear.
A former bailiff is standing in the senatorials. Do you have any thoughts on that?
My only thought is why is he standing, really? No. Everybody says it's a foregone conclusion that that's a senatorial seat taken, but I hope the public get out there and vote this time. It's a very important election year, and no, I don't really think a bailiff in our states is the right thing. One
of his hobby horses is, of course, independence for Jersey, so it seems. How would that go down, do you think, in District 3 and 4?
I think we'd be opening up a whole can of worms and creating huge problems. We couldn't, cutbacks at the moment, and the financial situation, we'd have to look at providing our own defence, and we just couldn't afford that.
So it won't be on your agenda?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, we shall come back to you again before October.
Thank you.
Cheers.